I really have no idea how to go about having this conversation, this book review. On the one hand, you've got a book that is masterful on the sentence level and as addicting as anything that you're binging on Netflix. It's simple until you look closer and you see all of the things going on, and you're just left with this massive feeling of respect. But then on the other hand, you've got this cover art. Am I the only one who sees something weird here? No, literally, it's on one hand and then the other. Hey beautiful people of the internet, my name is Ryan, and today I'm going to be reviewing Elena Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend. But we are also going to have the conversation about the cover. The cover conversation. The under the cover conversation. I'm just gonna stop that right there. Moving on. Disclaimer, I know you all are just incredibly attached to the 3-part book review, and by incredibly attached, I mean I'm sure that you don't care. But this video just has to come in 4 parts. They are the basics about the book, my personal experience with it, should you read/buy the book, and 4th, the cover. This review, as always, contains no spoilers. So let's get to it. First, the basics about the book. My Brilliant Friend was published in 2011, and it is the first of 4 books in a series called the Neapolitan novels. It was written in Italian and then translated into English, which is obviously how I read it, because I ain't no linguistic-ish person. It's 331 pages split into a prologue and then 2 sections called Childhood and Adolescence. But it's also got micro chapters which just help the book move along really smoothly. Okay, now this is huge. The book is written by Elena Ferrante, and the main character's name is Elena. That's not all of the picture, but let's pretend that it is for just a second. When an author writes a book using a main character that shares their name, it usually sparks some really interesting conversations that I like having. Conversations about how even non-fiction is fiction-esque, because to translate real events as they happen onto a page is to fictionalize them, and vice versa, about how any one person's attempt to write fiction is a teensy bit tied to who that person is and their particular lens for the world. And so somewhere inside of it, in some small corner, the author is present. All of those are exciting conversations, and I love having them. However, Elena Ferrante, the author, that's a pseudonym, which makes all of the things that I just said go topsy-turvy and get way too complex. But more on that later. The story of My Brilliant Friend is the friendship between 2 girls, Elena and Lila, in Naples, Italy in the 1950s. However, as you can see here, the entire town is going to be a part of this novel. It's an entire community put onto the page. This book specifically covers the first 15-ish years of the friendship that will be the arc of the entire series of books. My Brilliant Friend is a coming-of-age novel, which is a helpful thing that a lot of reviewers say. I personally find it more helpful to say that this book is intensely personal and also violently social. Okay, number 2, my personal reaction to the book. If you were sitting at home thinking that the project of the book or the series might be related to the fact that we have an Elena author and an Elena main character, well, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, because I happen to believe that too. For me personally, that is inseparable from my reading experience. We were actually assigned this book in my creative writing program, and when it came time to talk about the book, we mostly just sat around the table and were like, "Ooh, how is it so good?" The narration in particular is amazing. It weaves pretty seamlessly in and out of memories, and it also covers a lot of time without you really realizing that that's happening. You feel like you're in the hands of an excellent safari guide, and the safari is the trip that you're taking through Elena's memories. And again, for me personally, I'm just sitting there thinking again and again and again, you get to choose a fictional name for a pseudonym, and then 3 or 4 books later, when you start the Neapolitan novels, you choose Elena as the name of the main character. What makes you do that? It's got to be a comment on memory and on where, at the end of the day, you think the story comes from. Is it Elena, the young character? Is it Elena, the older narrator who is commenting on that young character? Is it Elena Ferrante, the pseudonym? Or somehow is it the physical human behind that pseudonym? Or maybe it's a comment on what I'm doing right now, how we readers just keep stubbornly looking for a source of authority behind the story, when maybe we don't need one. Third, so is that a yes or a no on whether or not I should read it? Okay, let's see here. It's been received well with the critics. It's addictive like Netflix is. It's an excuse to read a book in translation, which doesn't happen all the time. Your friendly neighborhood booktuber adored it. And if you like it, then you get to spend 3 more books in this world that Elena Ferrante has created. Basically, oh yeah, you're gonna want to read it. No doubt about it. I mean, the only doubt you could have about it is that you think maybe the book isn't meant for you. And I have no idea what part of the marketing / advertising / publishing process would make you feel like maybe you're not the intended audience. Thanks for the transition, Ryan. And fourth, the cover. There's this interview I found on Slate with the publisher responsible for putting that cover on the Europa editions. It's a fair interview. The publisher gets to explain the thought process behind it, but then at the very end, there is this question and answer. In the US, there's been a lot of discussion about the aesthetic differences between covers of books written by men versus covers of books written by women. It's hard to imagine these 4 covers on a book written about a man. Is that intentional? And more generally, do you ever worry that book cover art is too gendered? Perhaps in the case of some covers, we reach out to a female readership more explicitly. But it's not that important. The choice can also be entirely random. For us, it's sufficient that a cover is done well and that it properly represents the book. That sounds really fake. In my mind, this is a cover that sells the book short. Marketing a book is a dangerous game. You've got a matter of seconds to impress upon the reader what kind of book is behind the cover and whether or not that book is for that reader. Specifically, whether or not the publisher thinks that a man or a woman or both should be reading the book. That is a whole nother conversation. That's fine, mistakes happen. Even if they do happen for 4 straight books in a series. Here is my largest problem with the publisher's answer. There is no acknowledgement that the marketing game for books, and specifically cover art, is a large portion of why we have such a gender divide in the reading population. Here's the hard and uncomfortable truth. I hadn't heard of My Brilliant Friend before I was assigned it for class. I didn't know that the critics loved the book, and I didn't know that other writers loved the book. All I had seen was the cover, and I didn't think it was my type of book. I've very, very happily been proven wrong and judgmental, but I really shudder to think of the men who won't pick this book up. This book, which is doing wonderful things for making men want to read female protagonists because of the cover. As simply as I can possibly put it, this magnificent book deserves a cover that doesn't let anyone write it off as something that's not for them. It needs a cover that makes you wonder about the magnificent things which can happen to you once you crack the book open. And that is all that I have for this week. If you liked what you saw and you want more book reviews, there is a subscribe button down below. And otherwise, I will see all of your lovely faces here in 7 days. Best wishes! Hey, beautiful people of the internet, my name is Ryan, and I originally had 3 separate ideas for what this video would be. Then this thing got in the way. My brain, not my bandana, but my brain. My name is Ryan, and I am a recursive thinker. I really try my best never to say, if I had more time, or once I have more time on this channel. Because 1, I watch enough YouTube every day that I have the time. And 2, I'm a firm believer that you can always be reading more. 15 minutes before bed, 15 more minutes in the morning. But, that said, once I have more time, I will pick up the rest of the Neapolitan novels, but it's probably going to be a while.